Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the combined work session, regularly scheduled meeting of the Southampton Village Planning Board. This is an unusual meeting in that we've combined the work session, which would have taken place last Monday, with the regular scheduled meeting, which would normally be today because of the holidays. And so there'll be a little bit of kind of both meeting agendas happening at the same time. In the work session, typically the members of the board talk amongst themselves about the issues of the applications, and the public is not does not have an opportunity at that point to make any comment unless the board members feel that somebody in the audience has something that might add to the discussion. Of course, in the public hearing aspect of the meeting, the public is invited to make their comments. So we'll be going back and forth on that. And hope you all will bear with us as we try and get through this. The other issue is with the Beach Plum Meadows application. I know there was many people who are interested in the public comment part of this, and I had even some calls during the week leading up to the meeting. When would it be addressed? Would it be earlier? Would it be later? I wasn't even quite sure myself how we would handle the scheduling of the combined work session public meetings thing. So I told people that 5:30 would be when we would do that. So normally this would be the first item we would begin discussing, but because some people may be coming at 5:30 who want to comment on that, I'm going to withhold that item on the agenda until no earlier than 5:30, so that anybody who wanted to address that issue and was planning to be here at 5:30 won't miss it. So we'll start that no sooner than 5:30, if that's okay with everybody. So if I could have a motion to open the meeting, that would be great.
I'll make a motion to open the meeting.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, with regard to, was this the tennis court application that you said, Kathy, we need some revisions to the plan?
Yes, this is the 500 Old Town Road. They had sent in an updated map, 2 maps since the last meeting, in fact. And this one was reviewed this morning by our office, and there are some revisions that are needed. There's some corrections to the calculations. So I had done an updated memo, and that's dated today. So the memo that's in your packet is actually outdated, because the one that was dated today somehow didn't end up in your packet. But I emailed it to you this afternoon if you want to take a look, and I emailed the applicant, so they can take a look at that and call me if there's any questions.
Okay, and I have that memo.
Was it just detailing to the plan, or actual revisions that were required because they weren't meeting the requirements
The
of it?
drainage calculations
Okay.
there's a problem with them, so they're gonna have to do some engineering there.
Mhm.
There's also a couple of things that are on the radius map has the location of pool equipment that's in a non-conforming location with respect to zoning, so that needs to be updated. That wasn't done. But they did, on the updated plan, meet the other comments from my previous memo, in that they have shown the pool house location and I guess there was some detail about landscaping as well. I would ask that they actually do have a revision date on this next version, though, because it's going to get confusing. This is the second map that we have with no revision date. So that's it. Are you?
Yes,
verified?
I'm the applicant.
Okay.
So these galleys that are, they're 2 by 8.5 by 4.75
Yeah.
feet.
The capacity of those are 64
Cubic feet.
And if you do the math, I believe it's more than 7 units that they'll need.
And what do they have, 5?
They have 7 units, but they probably need double that. I don't know how to calculate it with you, but I think 17 is the number, so I don't know if that's gonna fit in the location that they have. They also have to show the separation to groundwater, so that there's actually a separation. They don't provide enough detail.
Okay, I thought the galleys could actually sit right on top of groundwater, those.
You know, you always wanna have some kind of room. To my knowledge, I talked to the engineers in our office, so.
Oh, I did too. I thought I talked to somebody in your office, Kathy, that said that they can sit right on, they can't be in groundwater, but they can sit right on top of it. But I'll look at my notes.
Okay. No, I spoke with the engineer that does this,
Okay.
so, as I was looking, I just wanted to have that detail today because we didn't have the dimensions on it. So we wanted to pull the specs from the details that he had.
Which plan are you looking at?
I just need your name, please.
Jason Green.
Well, the plan is last revised September 24th, or 2013. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of confusing if you don't have a revision date. I don't know, maybe, oh wait. I have something else underneath here, under the scale.
2014.
Oh, it's dated in two different places. Okay, the revision number.
It says 12/30/2014.
Where, excuse me, where?
Which one?
This is the one that they sent me.
You're looking at the wrong plan. We
Okay,
delivered
well,
9 copies, and plus, we show the calculations and the
that's
pool
it.
equipment is being moved.
On what, 12:30?
Yes.
Yeah, we have them in our packs, dated 12/30.
It was moved over to
So,
here.
well, okay, that's great. So this one shows, these are 80.75 cubic feet. I still have to look at it because I don't know my calculation. It's 64 cubic feet per,
Yeah, I think they add up to 80, if you use the outside dimensions.
right.
Although the 2 feet is to the bottom. See, it doesn't say what the wall is. But they're saying that each galley is capable of holding 80.75 feet.
And it also shows separation from the water. Of a
20.
foot.
Yeah, there,
Yeah.
where, does it say 2 feet difference? I
No,
don't
1
see
foot.
any.
If you do if 8 foot is the bottom of the wall, top of the elevation is 7 foot, and it's a 2 foot deep galley, and the water table's at elevation 4.
Okay, and
So you have 1 foot separation.
What's the top? The top is 1 foot
Top
also?
is 7 foot.
What's the top, what's this top here?
Oh, yeah, that's probably like 6 inches.
The top
So
of
it's still,
the-
it's still
or
like
the
it's still like
top
a
of it?
6 inch, it's still like a 6 inch separation.
Sorry, I'm trying to find that.
But the dimension on the galley is 8'6". That's outside to outside of the wall.
Okay.
So the inside capacity would be less. I mean, I don't know which manufacturer it is.
That's what we were using a standard spec.
Mhm.
And it was.
You were coming up with like 60 point something?
They had, like, the top was 6.5 inches and the sides were 4 inches each.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take 1, 2, 2, 3, divided by 64, I get 19.
You need 19 galleys instead of 14.
19 instead of 7. Are there 14? How many are you
No,
proposing?
7. They have 7.
Okay, so, see where it says 13.9 linear feet required? I
Yeah.
don't understand that. It's actually the pools that are required. So if you assume that it's 80 cubic feet,
Mm-hmm.
then it would be 13
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
individual galleys that are needed, not
Right.
13 linear feet of galleys.
Right.
So,
And so you think we need how many? 17?
if you use 64, it's 19. If you use 1,123 cubic feet
Mm-hmm.
divided by 64, it's 19. Assuming that's correct.
Right. And what was it? 60? What's the capacity of each galley?
64. cubic feet. Yeah, this is the different one that was emailed, but it's similar.
Yeah, so we'd need something like this, Kath?
Yeah,
They'd have to add
So
2
that
rows and
fits.
then double them up.
yeah,
Yeah,
if I could fit that, that'd be fine.
yeah.
So these, that's it, it says, yeah, so it says proposed 7 24-inch by 8 by 6 by 4 dash 9 on the side there. So you might want to check the text there as well,
24 inch by 8 foot 6 inches
by 4 foot. So that's old.
by 4 foot 9 inches.
Yeah, so that must be the old measurement.
But the
Yeah, if you
24
add up
inches
the
is the depth. And then they're 8 foot 6
By
by 4 foot 9.
Right, but it looks like they're taking into account the concrete on the sides and the
Right.
concrete on the top as space, because they're adding up the outside dimensions. So
Okay.
you're coming up with 80 cubic feet, when, if you take the concrete out, it's only 60, what was it, 60?
64.
64.
And then you're just dividing the 1123 by the 64 to get your number.
Of required.
So, Mr. Green, if you could revise the plan to show greater thing, or if you need to get together with Kathy's office and spec that out in further detail.
Okay? Let's set this up. Fair enough. I'm just perplexed why she doesn't have the most recent copy. Those were hand delivered to the building department.
Yeah.
This was what was
And
emailed
9
to me by
copies.
Kevin
Helium.
Gillian. He emailed a copy to me, it must have been modified slightly. The only thing that's different, though, is the pool equipment, everything else is the same. It has the same number of reaching galleys, so
Right.
that's what I was reviewing as a drainage. So he must have just said, oh, let me change that as well.
So what other issues are there other than the quantity of galley drains?
That was it, really. I mean, it has, the drainage system has to work. So,
Right, are they showing?
so you wanna show enough details. I mean,
Drainage
this is a memo that details it, but it's asking for additional detail. And it's asking that the radius map be modified to move that location of the pool equipment because it shows up on the radius map, and that's a required part of the submission. The landscaping is fine, and asking for a revision date. So that was it.
Okay. But is the pool equipment location now, do I need to incorporate it in any different detail that exists currently?
As long as it's not within a
35
required
foot
setback,
setback, right.
it's fine, as long as there's no other requirement that, I don't know about, but I think that's fine. And next to driveway, fine.
So we can get those revisions back into the building department, and we can revisit at the next meeting, the
Okay,
next work session.
sounds good. Thank you.
Any public hearings? Is there anything further on the PEP 2 applications?
Robert Conley of Farrell Fritz, 50 Station Road, Watermill, New York, 11976. Since the last public hearing, we have submitted to the village a revised site plan that incorporated all of the comments found in the last memorandum prepared by Nelson Pope. We're also submitting tonight a revised landscape plan that depicts 10 Leland cypresses to supplement the white pines that currently exist in the buffer. The cypresses are proposed in locations where the existing vegetation is sparse, and specifically to limit any visual impact the project may have on the Dodd property. If you may remember, Frank Dodd came to the public hearing to ask for vegetation in that location on the property. So I'm going to hand this up to the board tonight. It hasn't made its way to
You
the...
need to hand it
Okay.
in.
And we've also submitted a stormwater pollution prevention plan to the board. So we would like to obviously have the public hearing closed if possible, for at least the site plan. I think there are subdivision revisions that need to be.
Did you go over your landscaping plan with,
Briefly, Mr. Ebrahimi is here. He's the attorney for the homeowners association. He's going to speak. He'd like time, obviously, to bring it to. But I did meet with Mr. Dodd in our office in August to discuss the proposal.
Two of these? That's for PEP 2?
Did you get a couple more?
No, that's Pelosi. Thanks. Did you get this one?
There should be a couple.
I saw the email.
Yeah, those are the same. I just want to have, can I have one more?
This is,
One
yeah,
back?
this is Pelosi, we have that
Yeah.
one.
You want
You only have one of these?
Yeah, I just want
That's
to
it.
pass those out.
Yeah, there was a mix-up with the revision date. So
Kathy. Well, are we doing Pelosi or are we doing
No,
PEP 2?
No, no.
We're doing
Pep
PEP
two.
2.
That too, I'm just trying to.
PEP 2 is this
So,
one.
there was one thing on PEP 2, is that, we had asked that the landscaping be supplemented for the, in the back. They have, about 20 white pines back there, which are starting to fill out. And we thought that by adding some Leyland cypress in the areas where it's a little, open, would provide some relief in the short term, but in the long term, it's going to be a very full buffer back there.
Well, this new plan shows the addition of 10
They
Leyland
have them on
cypresses,
the new plan.
plus some fountain grass. Has that been added too?
it has not been added yet, the photographs, no.
Was that your only issue, Kathy?
That was the only outstanding issue. There were minor items, I believe, on the subdivision map that I don't have an updated version. And it was just, like renaming the map, so it said sketch plan. I mean, there were very minor revisions, and I don't know that those were ever submitted to the file.
I thought they were submitted some time ago, but I'll double check.
So I will check the file tonight also. But as far as the going forward, this requires, because it's a disturbance of more than an acre overall, it requires a stormwater pollution prevention plan, which the applicant has submitted. And we got last week, I believe, or maybe a week and a half ago. So we're starting to review that. And I don't imagine that that is going to actually require modification to the site plan. So everything is in order at this point.
Give that to Kathy.
And
Kathy?
for getting final comments from, we always kind of circle back to the highway department, the fire marshal, to make sure that they're okay with it. So that's where we're at this point. The stormwater pollution prevention plan, we'll be able to review that in the next month and be able to get comments to you before the next work session. So those are the last outstanding items.
Thank you. At this point, I'd like to ask if there's any other public comment.
Hi, Reza Ebrahimi from Toomey Latham in Riverhead, representing the neighbors to the south, the Dunes at Southampton Homeowners Association, Inc. I think Mr. Connolly already suggested, the only reason I'm here is just because we got the landscaping plan today, and I just need time to run it by our client to make sure that the buffering that's been suggested is sufficient for them. So on that basis, I just wanted to ask that keep it open until they have a chance to take a look at it.
And you represent who's
The neighbors to the south, the homeowners association, the dunes. We're on the other side of the buffering, residential community.
I think,
Oh, you're in the dunes, so you're really to like the northwest?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay.
I said south. My
Okay.
bad.
would it be, Bo, acceptable to close the public hearing but reserve the right of the homeowners association to make additional comment in the event they have objections?
You know, my thought, Roy, would be this has been going on long enough. I mean, I understand why the applicant might want to go through the passageway of closing the public hearing, but I think it's better to keep it open. I don't think it changes the scheduling at all. We can close
Plus,
it
we
next
just got
time.
this plan
Right.
literally this afternoon.
All right,
so-
well, we'll give you the opportunity to comment at the next session then.
Great. All right, thank you very much.
I'll make a motion to approve the request of the applicant to adjourn for all purposes to PEP 2 Holdings LLC.
All in favor, can I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So, is this going?
It goes in here, yeah. It's the only one we have.
Southampton Real Estate Partners LLC, 85 and 95 Down East Lane.
That was...
I thought I saw an email from you, Kathy, regarding EPA.
Mhm.
There was a memo about this at the last meeting, and regarding the concern of the additional density of this, of a subdivision and the additional house on the, it's a 303D listed water body. And so we had asked for the EAF to have a supplement to do an analysis of the nitrogen loading to the, sorry, I'm trying, is it Hetty Creek? I'm trying to remember what the creek is. So there was a one-page letter that went with the EAF, and we are reviewing it. We had a few delays, so I just need a little more time to have that reviewed and get some comments back to the applicant on the EAF part of that. And then I need some time to digest this letter too, that you'll submit it this afternoon.
Yeah, that was this one.
Yeah,
And then did you get this one right?
just now.
Mhm. They're saying that they're not going to seek relief for maximum lot coverage, not prevented requesting relief in wetland setback.
But this was just received today, so you haven't had a chance to review this.
You got this memo today, right?
Yeah, I'm just kinda
Okay.
making
Yeah, this
notes.
follows a discussion we had at the last meeting, and I thought that the applicant's response was reasonable as far as the zoning goes. We're trying to just anticipate what might
One on Hetty
happen to
Creek.
this property in the future and be able to deal with potential issues now as opposed to later.
Mhm.
Would it help if I summarize briefly that letter, just so I can be happy to if you'd like me to?
Sure.
Gilbert G. Flanagan for the applicant. At the last meeting, it was suggested that there be some limitation on the development of the smaller lot, which you may remember inadvertently merged with the bigger lot. And I went back to my client, and under certain circumstances, he would be willing to place some restrictions on the development of that lot. The one thing I would mention to you, and as I think I did at the original hearing, is that, as you know, this property does have wetlands on it, and the thing that really controls the development of both parcels is the wetland setbacks as opposed to the zoning. And there's also a section of the code that says that if there's a tension between the wetlands setback regulations and the zoning, the Board of Appeals, in considering a wetlands permit application, might ask the applicant to relax the zoning. So we wouldn't want to be in a catch-22, and that's, my letter basically pointed out that the one thing I could see being a potential conflict might be a front yard setback. The side yard setback wouldn't be an issue from a zoning standpoint, nor would the rear yard. So in the event that the Board of Appeals pushes us in that direction, we would like the flexibility. We wouldn't want to be prevented from doing what they want us to do and what the code says we should do. But there's no question about not seeking relief from the lot coverage or from the gross floor area requirements. And so I think my letter pretty well spells it out, and I think the client is agreeable to the concept. I hope that summarizes it.
Could we just make a note to include those two conditions in?
Yeah, no, that's, I said, I think I even mentioned I would expect a condition and possibly some covenants. I think that was in the letter. That could be part of it. With that caveat, if there is a tension between what the wetlands law says and what the zoning says, that the front yard setback might be more appropriate. And this lot is a little different, as you know, because it's pie-shaped. Other than that, I have nothing further to say on that.
Can we adjourn this, Gil, and give everyone a chance to review what this
That's fine. I know Kathy wants further to review the nitrogen loading information, so that's fine.
Make a motion to approve the request of the applicant to adjourn for all purposes the application of Southampton RE Partners LLC.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let me just look at one thing. Let me see this.
Number 9 Main Street.
Okay, you can take it back.
So there's a letter in the file from the applicant basically stating that they have informal non-binding approval from the trustees to proceed as requested by our council.
This is about this.
Steve, would you hand this down to Bo?
That's for Bob.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Timothy S. McCullough, 41
Kathy,
Meeting
just
House
give me
Lane,
this.
for the applicant.
Okay.
I think the last
There's
time we
another
had
one.
two issues with coordinating SECRA, which I think Kathy's worked on, and the other one was addressed in that letter that you were referring to about the issue with the trustees. I'll be guided by how the board feels comfortable with the issue with the trustees and the easement. Procedurally, I'll be guided by whatever you desire.
Okay.
I handed up one letter from the County of Suffolk regarding the site plan. It's regarding the health department and their the application status, and they note it was sent to the town by the health department, so it may not have made it into the village's file. So I'll just make sure that this gets in the file. But it is basically saying they're waiting for easements, and they're waiting for a secret determination from the town. It's the village. But to that end, we did circulate, we did the lead agency coordination, we did a review of the Part 1 EAF, and prepared a Part 2. And no Part 3 was necessary, and we're recommending that a neg deck be adopted. So I have this for the file, which is the Part 2 and the Part 3. DD stamps in, as well as a copy of the neg deck. Hand up. You want a copy of this letter?
Yeah.
So who's going to go first? Sounds like the
go first.
town's got to,
No, the village.
Yeah, it was,
The
it
village,
was,
that's just an
that's an
error.
error.
Yeah, the county must have had the town's address in the system
Mhm.
and not the village's for
Okay.
whatever reason,
Let me
so.
see this. Inner science.
So if you're in agreement, you should
so basically the
do that.
issue is to vote on a neg deck
Yep, exactly,
and proceed.
and exactly.
I have a motion to that effect.
Make a motion to approve the neg deck.
Oh, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's for you then?
And then we're adjourning this.
I have to close the public hearing at this point, I think, unless, we basically, some others, right?
Let's ask if there's any further public comment. Anyone else wish to be heard on this application? A motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing and adjourn for all purposes.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
The next item on the agenda is Starbucks Coffee Company, 29 Hampton Road, which we were not able to consider at the last meeting because we did not have a quorum.
Oh, you want to?
But we do tonight.
So please leave.
So I think the first item was that there was the negative declaration for Starbucks needed to be voted on. Is that right, Kathy? Although I don't see that in the file, but I see a note
Does
here.
Kathy have it?
It's actually in there, dated November 3rd, so we can change the date on it. I'll just do the handwritten and then, I'll modify it tomorrow.
So if I could have a motion to vote on the negative declaration for the Starbucks application.
Make a motion to vote on the negative
To
declaration.
approve a negative declaration. Motion to approve a negative declaration.
Motion to approve the negative declaration for the Starbucks application.
And a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so I'll send this to Jackie tomorrow and I'll have her send a copy to John.
Great.
Okay?
Well, I'd like to talk further.
Now,
Yeah, no,
Oh,
on the
okay.
neg deck, we'll have a
Oh,
copy.
thanks.
sent to you.
figure out the issue that we were talking about at the last time about whether or not you could get into the drainage
Yeah,
holes.
no, we're fine on that. As a matter of fact, it was suggested that that would be a condition. There's a third, that we've located all the drainage structures as was, everyone was informed in that November letter from Squires and Holden. As a matter of fact, it was above capacity from what was originally approved in that Pembroke Flowers site plan approval. So we had no problem whatsoever with a condition that, prior to the issuance of a CO or whatever it is, that.
But I thought there was some issue where the holes were located on Starbucks property or
No,
neighbor
we're
property.
fine, we're fine with that. It's within the easement area, so we're okay with that. So a condition that, essentially what has to happen is that we would just put one of those cast iron clean out access covers on the third of the 3 leaching pools. Sometimes happens when they put these things in, they just bury the leaching pools, assuming that the third one will never have to be cleaned out. But we'll just put another one on. That's no problem with the condition. This was, to be blunt with you, I was sort of hoping for an approval this evening, and I'll tell you why. There was some back and forth over the parking. I believe, I could be wrong, the way the parking calculations were shown on the site plan. I think Kathy and I had worked all that out, and then Chick was at the meeting, the last meeting, I think. And Chick wanted, and we had all worked it out, but I guess you and Chick hadn't conversed. And Chick wanted us to show the actual parking spaces on the, so we actually did that and submitted that about a month ago.
Yep.
So I think, I'm pretty confident that we're there. And I was hoping, because here's my concern, you have 3 board members now, it's, in all likelihood in February, it's, one of you is gonna be away. That's just the way it goes. I mean, I can't remember a planning board or a zoning board of appeals meeting in the village. Understandably, it's just human nature that we had all the members at a February meeting. And then I'm off into March. You're down one member. It's not your problem that one member has had to recuse himself. That's my problem. But I was hoping maybe.
I understand.
If we could get this approved, because the only thing you could vote to approve this site plan with that one condition that we cover the third leaching ring in the with a cast iron cover. Essentially, this has been. Now, I'm not trying to sound unappreciative of all the work that everyone's done on this, but it's essentially an interior modification site plan that's been pending for about 6 months. So, and again,
John, let's do first things first. See if we can close the public hearing.
Oh.
So, is there any further public comment upon this application? Make a motion to close the public hearing. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Didn't mean to jump the gun on that. Sorry.
Do we have any other further issues? Although, is that drainage situation acceptable? Kathy, is there anything else we need to address with regard to this application? Good? Bo, are we in a position to vote?
Well, it's not wise to make precedents out of this, but I think John makes an argument that it's basically is an interior alteration. The use is the same. It's been pending for 6 months. I think 2 of which were dedicated or focused on the commentary of a member of the public concerning the parking, which was really sort of a red herring, because that turned out to be that turned about no issue. So I have no problem in you voting tonight to approve it, subject to approve it, and then subject to a confirmatory written decision by the board with the condition on the covenant, John, and
The
then
cover.
on the cover,
on
and
the-
the
yeah.
covenant being recorded, right?
Oh,
Well,
no, we were just got as a condition to, it's,
Condition
I mean, I'll
to
put it
what?
on a covenant if you want, but it was just,
we
gonna
approve
put
it. What do we
we're just gonna put
condition upon? Your incarceration if it's
my
not
incarceration if it's not done correctly. I'll do time for my clients. No, just we were gonna put the metal cast iron
All right,
clean out
subject.
cover.
All right, so
on it.
how about then subject to that installation prior to the issuance of the CO?
Oh, absolutely.
All
Yeah,
right.
that's more than
All right, so
reasonable.
subject, approve the application for Starbucks pursuant to the plans and specifications
November 20th, I think is.
submitted by Squires and Holden?
Yeah, November 20, last
Last revised,
November 20th,
Squires and Holden,
2014.
last revised November 20, 2014. Subject to the condition that the applicant install a access cover to the third leaching ring to the approval of the village engineer, and also that be accomplished to the satisfaction of the village engineer prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy.
Can
That would
I
work if you could.
have a second to that?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate that, and so does the client. Thank you. So does the owner, who will start getting paid rent now. Thank you very much.
Moving on, J-Jet Holdings, 199 Mariner Drive.
Todd Moberly, owner.
Tom Lawrence, employee.
So this is the first public hearing for J-Jet Holding LLC.
Did the board have any additional requirements, questions, or?
I thought we were done last time.
We just had, we were done with most of the questions for the applicant. We were going to see if anybody in the public had any questions.
Oh, we closed it for a public hearing, right?
It's closed for public hearing tonight, yeah.
I don't have anything on J.J.
It's in here someplace from last month.
We had a couple of comments in our original memo that were addressed in the response memo, which they had a good basis for them, related to having the pavement up to the property line, the fence there, the end caps not needed because it would restrict truck movement, and that all of these had basis in reason, and due to the nature of this development, it's not something that is, across from a residential area. It's people that work there that see it. As far as the screening along the parking area, it really wouldn't benefit anyone. I don't believe that a row of arborvitaes, for instance, would do anything there. So I would agree with that as well. There is a comment about there's runoff from the roof that is discharged off-site, which they're showing to be diverted to a catch basin. We do need some information about that. We need the sizing information, and we need some drainage calculations, understand how much roof runoff we're talking about there. So that was about it as far as our comments, and we did review the EAF, and it appears that this would qualify for a neg deck. So that's the summary of my comments.
Does anyone in the audience have any input to this application? No. So gentlemen, you need to provide the information Ms. Eisman requested.
I'll put it in writing too, so that way it's clear. I'll send you a note.
I didn't get anything from him.
Me neither.
And so I could prepare a neg deck for the next meeting, and if the plans are submitted in between, I can review them and give you some input in between. But I don't know if there's any reason to keep the public
Right,
hearing
I
open.
would ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, there.
Well, it's 5:23, so I feel comfortable that if we start Beach Plum, we'll continue for more than 9 minutes, or 7 minutes. And we-
There it is.
So let's begin addressing this.
North Main Street.
We're going back to we're gonna go back to Beach Plum.
Has everybody had a chance to review on the board
Number one?
Yeah, because we skipped it.
Mr. Cleary's memorandum regarding some questions that I posed to him
I read that.
regarding the sewage treatment plant, the effect of segmentation on the traffic impact of this application, lot size of this development, concerns about Long Island Railroad. In his memorandum, Mr. Cleary has addressed all of these issues.
I've lost it.
There's three of them in there.
And these are all dated. This is the older one, I think, right?
That's the older one. This is the one you want to be looking at.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all.
Oh, January, oh, I read it today. This is all that's here, but I read it today, right there. Oh, here it is. That's
I mean, basically, his point is with regards to the sewage treatment plant, that the sewage treatment plant is required because to support 16 lots. If you were to go to 40,000 square foot lots, you would get 10 lots. And those 10 lots, according to the calculations, would actually generate more nitrogen into the environment than the sewage treatment plant would generate handling the 16 lots that is proposed in the application. The 16 lots would generate more actual effluent in terms of gallons per day, but less than 1/2 the amount of nitrogen. The second point of his analysis compares the lot size of Beach Plum application to the comparable lots in the surrounding neighborhood and concludes that the lots as configured in the Beach Plum application are slightly larger than the lots in the surrounding neighborhood, but neither, actually just slightly larger, 2,400 square feet average building footprint compared to 2,200 square feet of the lot is the average lot size of the surrounding neighborhood. Another issue that was raised was regard to the segmented impact of continued development in the Moses Lane area. Each additional development, and there have now been 2, and this would be the 3rd, has added additional traffic to the area, raising the question of a concept called segmentation under SECRA. Basically, SECRA defines segmentation as the cumulative impact of additional developments. In most cases, these developments would be when a single developer segments his application to avoid having the impact of any one part. It actually fractionalizes the impact of the traffic impact into several small cases into a larger one. And as Mr. Cleary points out, this application is not doing that, that the entire action is just this development. And the fact that the entire village of Southampton is being developed to cause increased traffic in this area is an issue facing the village of Southampton, and is certainly one which this board must consider. In fact, Cleary says and I quote, "It would be appropriate to require the developer to address the cumulative impacts of the beach plum product and to also address other projects that are actively under review to the extent that they have bearing on the beach plum application, i.e. resulting traffic impacts on the same road. While this may not be the overall village-wide cumulative assessment that would be necessary to address all development, it may provide useful insight." And one other question that was raised in the public hearings was the question of what authority and what concerns the Long Island Railroad right-of-way, which abuts the property, may have regarding the beach plum application. And basically, the railroad has been contacted and they have confirmed that they would have no actual authority in terms of controlling what might happen with development besides as a interested neighbor, unless, of course, some of their equipment were located on the property, which it is not. That's a brief summary of this report, addressing some of the issues that remain pending regarding this application.
It seems to me that there's been a pretty extensive job done by all those who are affected by this subdivision. I don't want to list all of them because they're listed in these 3 memorandums that we just recently received, plus the attorney's memorandums. My only problem with it is we've satisfied all of some of the technical problems of the environment, but there's a certain environmental amenity absence from this particular plan. There are not a tennis court, not a walk, and not any conversations about sight lines and sight views may not necessarily be a part of the application. It's a desire to, and it might enhance the value of the property, which is not the point, but from the viewpoint of the neighbors. But when I look at the overall plan and I look at the surrounding subdivisions, I don't see any amenities at any of those. I mean, we had a couple of paddle tennis courts that disappeared off of just north of Hill Street, which were run by the village, which died. And I'm talking about something 15, 20 years ago. I haven't seen any replacements. Now, these amenities that I'm talking about are all available in the village at different levels and different places. And there's not necessarily a burden for this particular developer to take on. But other than that airy-fairy complaint, so to speak, the technical aspects of the subdivision have been more than answered so far that I'm aware of.
Steve, Pam?
I think we've done the best we could to answer everybody's concerns. And everyone we could be in touch with, we've been in touch with.
Well, at this point, let me open this to any further public comment that there might be. Mr. Flanagan, would you like to lead?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I thank you for the opportunity. I just do want to summarize a couple of things for the record so that I'm sure that the record contains everything that I hope that it does. Specifically, I want to make sure that you have in the file the memorandum that I submitted on December 23rd, which was basically in response to and an amplification of the first memo that Cleary Consulting submitted, which was, I believe, in November. The second thing that I just want to make sure you have, which I'm sure you do, is the letter of the Suffolk County Water Authority dated December 19th, which specifically said that because we had redesigned the sewage treatment plant and its leaching field, and because it falls outside of the capture zone of the nearby well field, their concerns have been addressed. So that was, I know that was a big thing that was pending, but you have it in writing from them that the design that we have proposed now satisfies them.
It's part of Mr. Cleary's report.
Yeah, it was attached to his report. I also got a copy of it separately. Mr. Cleary, as you also know, did actually have a meeting with Walter Hilbert at the Health Department, and he confirmed that the ChromaGlass system that the applicant is proposing is a system that is fairly well recognized, it's fairly well regulated, it's fairly well secured, and I believe that the Health Department indicated that in this particular situation with the design proposed that the Health Department would look favorably on it. I also did earlier today, after receiving Mr. Cleary's most recent report, submit a follow-up letter memorandum, which you may not have fully had a chance to read, but it basically summarizes our conclusions regarding the project and the various items that I believe were still open in some of your minds. And just to summarize, as I see this application and where it is now, this is, I think, conceitedly, at least on the part of your consultant and on the part of the applicant, an unlisted action under SEQRA. And I believe that all potential adverse environmental impacts have been more than thoroughly looked into. And I would submit that this has been more than even the required hard look that SEQRA requires. They've been identified, and they've either been found not to be an issue or have been found to be sufficiently mitigated to the effect that there is no potential significant adverse environmental impact from any aspect of this project. And again, the test is not that there's an environmental impact. Everything that we do has an environmental impact. The question is whether or not it is a potentially significant adverse impact. And I would submit that that is not the case here. I think the Cleary memorandum adequately, more than adequately, discusses the issue of segmentation. As the chairman pointed out, this is a single project. It's not phased. There are no other aspects to it. This is the project, so there is no segmentation involved. With respect to the cumulative impacts discussion, there are some footnotes in the Cleary memorandum which cite some cases which I think are important, and especially when a project is not related either directly or indirectly to any other project, unless there's some overall community plan for development which this project would fit into, a cumulative impacts analysis to be put on the applicant would not necessarily be fitting. So I think that we've addressed those issues. I might also point out that we've had a number of public hearings on this application, and I can't recall one piece of expert evidence that's been offered by anyone to contradict what our consultants have provided. The one issue that was mentioned earlier, and briefly, and I'll mention again, is the traffic issue. Now, you may remember when things started out, we did submit a traffic study, and suggestion was made that we should look at other projects, including the recently approved Bishop's Pond subdivision. We submitted an amended traffic report, which concluded that even when you take that development into consideration, the level of service functioning along this section of Moses Lane, even with the subdivision, would still be level of service A, which is the best level of service you can get. We further, on the traffic, as you know, redesigned the subdivision road to align with the two facing intersections. We proposed four-way stops, and we redesigned the subdivision road to meet the fire marshal's concerns. So I think that the traffic information particularly has been addressed, and it would be, I think, inappropriate and unfair to require us to study the possible combined effect of this 16-lot residential subdivision with something, let's say, in the town of Southampton that's not even anywhere near an approval. And how can we possibly know what the ultimate result of that project is? So I would submit that, some people, I'm sure there are people in the audience who would rather not see anything happen to this property, and that seems to be the case with many applications. It's also important to note that this property currently has a pre-existing non-conforming use on it, namely a plant nursery, and that, as you know, one of the goals of the zoning regulations and the village master plan is to eliminate non-conforming uses gradually. This project will have the effect of doing that and replace that use with a conforming use of fewer lots than the zoning itself would require. SEQA, I believe, was designed originally by the state as a shield and not a sword. Many people tend to use it as a sword, either to eliminate, frustrate, or delay development, and I would submit that that really isn't what SEQA was intended to do. SEQA was intended to have the village take a hard look at certain issues, evaluate them, and see whether or not they were significantly adverse and whether or not they can be mitigated. I would submit that the review of this project is a classic example of how that system has worked. The applicant has modified the proposal. The applicant has listened to the board's comments, the consultant's comments, and the public's comments, and a number of, we think, good revisions have come out of that. But I think at this point, it's time to conclude your review and to move forward with a SEQA determination and a sketch plan decision. And I would ask at this point or later this evening that the public hearing be closed. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to address the board?
Vincent Skrbinski, 76 Foxhall Lane, Southampton. I'd like to speak to the need for a full environmental impact statement. Mr. Flanagan, in his letter of December 23 to the board, states the Cleary Consulting Memorandum identifies 18 areas of potential environmental impact. The letter goes on to say, and I quote, that your independent consultant has only concluded in the case of 14 of them, no significant environmental impact will result. Simple math says that there's 4 left, and the 4 left must have some significant environmental impact, hence the need for a full environmental impact statement. Mr. Flanagan goes on to say that not one bit of expert testimony has been presented by any of the objectants which would question the expert testimony provided by the applicant. First of all, I'd like to state, it's my own opinion, that nobody has objected to the project. All the people are asking for is that the planning board take a careful review of what's going on. Excuse me. Furthermore, is there a possibility that a full environmental impact statement provided by a neutral party might question the expert testimony provided by the applicant? Again, the need for a full environmental impact statement. And furthermore, I would challenge Mr. Flanagan when he classifies the neighbors as objectants. Nobody has objected to the project. There's no evidence of it. If there is, I wish that Mr. Flanagan would have provided, because I'd like to see his words corrected. Excuse me for a moment, just want to read that. Just in conclusion, all the expert testimony has been provided by an advocate for the applicant. We're all citizens of this village. I would think that it's the responsibility of the planning board to get neutral expert testimony. That's all we're asking for. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Hi. Happy New Year. Donna DeLeo, village resident. I concur with Vince. No one is against the development of the project. Whether or not it's upgrading it, I don't see it as a blight the way it is, but of course the owners have it as a right to build within what's lawful. So I believe an environmental impact study is required in order to get expert testimony. In order to get impartial expert opinion, an environmental impact study would provide that. And it would provide it, and it would lay the path for the best possible outcome, safety, addressing the safety and the concerns of the entire neighborhood. Just because we're the only ones showing up does not mean that we're the only ones who are concerned and want the best possible outcome for our neighborhood and for the village. I had a meeting with the Suffolk County Water Authority. I sat with Timothy, the chief engineer, and Stephen, the geologist, and Joseph, the deputy CEO of operations. And we discussed the pluses and the minuses of a sewage treatment plant. And we all have heard the benefits. They've been expressed here. And they're substantial. One of the concerns is that when it's plant failures, and they do fail, there have been a number of them that have failed in Suffolk County, it's due to incapability to maintain. Sometimes it's mechanical failure. When these happen, a lot of them have to be taken over by the Department of Public Works. And what that means is, and depending upon the circumstances, that this is at the municipality expense. Sometimes they're called abandoned. In order to avoid a potential health hazard, it's incumbent upon the municipality via the Department of Public Works or at the behest of the Public Works to take them over. These are large and small in Suffolk County, and they number in the tens. It's not just 10, it's not just 20, it's more. These are on record. I'm working on getting a list. I don't know if it's valuable at this point. These are usually associated with larger complexes. The sewage treatment plant is usually associated with larger complexes. The direction of the water which leaches from the bottom of the leaching pools is indeterminate. So in other words, if this plant is placed on the 5-year capture zone and the leaching pool is placed just outside, yes, and the leaching pools are deep and the water goes into them, but once it hits bottom and if it comes out, the direction is indeterminate. So if it's on the perimeter of a 5-year capture zone, I wonder, and how deep the 5-year capture zone is, I don't have that calculation. It can have an effect. So these are just concerns, and these are things that I want you to be aware of. I'm not an expert, but I took the time to drive up and meet with these good folks who gave me total information, and that's what I offer for you. I've been in touch with John Sargent of the Board of Health. I've been in contact with Ed Maines, the engineer of the Long Island Railroad, and the only reason that I don't have information back from him to pass on to you, as we discussed in our last meeting, is because the planning board was not complete in sending me the documents that I requested in a digital file twice, so that I could pass them along to him. So there are some environmental concerns here still. And the public's presented to you a number of these environmental impacts. And if it will go on record that the board will determine that there will never be an environmental impact, an adverse environmental impact, then I think an environmental impact study will provide the expert evaluation that will ensure the safety of the proposed project and the surrounding communities. And also instill confidence in the project and your confidence that we won't be talking about this 2 years from now saying we should have taken a harder look at it. We are not opposed, and I say this, I want to go on record, we are not opposed to the development of this property. But I think for the quality and that the village deserves, that the residents deserve, that the person who is trying to develop the property should be invested in, I think that environmental impact study should be really, really considered. This is not a hedge. This is not a subplot to stop the Corrigans from developing their property. It is only meant to protect our precious water supply. There is no going back. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anyone else?
Valerie Hart, Corrigan Street. I was with Donna when we went to the Water Authority, so everything she said I agree with. In fact, all of the statements, but that both Donna and Vince have said. This calls for it simply because of the traffic, if you just take traffic, and also if you think about a sewage treatment plant. It isn't something that, it's not one unit, it's many, it's one unit, it's not many units, and if it fails, it fails. So I think I'm just going to say a few things about something else and then come back to this. In regard to traffic, in order to estimate the correct number of cars coming out of the development, you really should know the size of the house and how many bedrooms are going in the house, because you have to take a look at the number of cars that you might have. That's the only reason how you can really evaluate that. Aside from all of the other traffic that's up and down Moses Lane, it continuously gets worse, continuously. So with this development going in it, and no one knows how many bedrooms, no one knows how many actual cars, because that calculation is, if it was going to what's being built now, you just saw in Corrigan Street, you have a 7-bedroom house. How many cars do you think you're going to have there? For each bedroom, there's a certain amount of parking spaces you need in the village. So that's one thing. Park space. Now, there was some mention of a 20-acre subdivision requirement. Well, I can't find it in the building code, and I can't find it in the building department. But what I can find is a formula for calculating park space, and it comes out to, in monetary, I don't know, but basically in size, it comes out to about half an acre, I think. But I'm not an expert, and I don't do those calculations, but the building department has those calculations. So let's look at, do you have a site plan? Do you have a site plan? I'm just wondering. Because if you look at the site plan, I think the park space is under that amount. On the actual site plan, if you look at the lot coverage table, it says pool and deck. Well, it doesn't correspond to the actual site plan itself, because the site plan, if you remember, we changed it to patios, because otherwise it would have been out of the building envelope. And also, the actual diagram of the supposed proposed house has a pool and a deck on it. So maybe those two issues should be changed before the site plan goes anywhere. In regard to the leaching fields, let's go to the actual chromoglass system. In looking around at the different systems that are available, New Jersey Pine Barrens has this system. I believe it's testing it at the present time, but I'm not an expert, so I can't tell you definitely. This was just some information that I found. And when we talk about a chromoglass plant, we also have to talk about the test holes. And at the present time, there's only one test hole, and it's not where the leaching fields will be. So really you have to do probably there should be more drill holes, test holes, to see what the location is, and also what the water level is now. If you look at all this whole fall, we've had a tremendous amount of puddles on the road, and that means, is our drainage properly? Even in our area where they're building new houses, these new houses have a lot of water in front of them. It's not draining it, it's not dispersing quickly. Just some other things to look at the plant. Is it the right plant for us? Do you want to put the best and the most correct plant in? Or do you want to just accept this as the best plant without doing research on it, which really calls for an environmental review on this whole project? And two of the reasons are traffic, and another reason is the sewage treatment plant. Is it the best one? Accidental discharge into the water catch area, high and major use of electricity, failure of the facility, cost of the facility plus credentials of who will install and account for the proper testing. Will they meet the efficiency standards? The actual soil has to be tested. Plus the lifespan of this particular plant. All of these go into a question of, yes, it does need an environmental study. Guilfoyle Road, no documentation stating that this will not be changed from a road, a paper road, to anything else from the residents. There is no documentation going forward. And from what I hear of the residents, they're not making any decision until they see what's going on. They don't want to make the wrong decision. And if they don't make a decision on that, then you need variances. So it goes on and on and on. So all I can say is we really do need an environmental study. And for the village should actually want it, because the issue of who pays if something happens to this plant, if it's the wrong plant. And also, maybe a comparison between 10 houses versus 16 houses, and what actually taking into the conventional sewage, fertilizer, pesticides, phosphates, and all of these things, what would be the best? So I think in all those reasons, or, an environmental study would probably be the safest way to go. So that's all I have to say, and Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you.
You want to do this? Yeah.
Further comments?
One other thing, if I may. While we were at the Suffolk County Water Authority and we were reviewing this plan, they asked for another test hole to be performed because I believe this one was done in 2013. It would make it no longer relevant. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I might. It seems a little bit obvious to me that some of the speakers here today may not have reviewed Mr. Cleary's memo, and I just want to start by mentioning that when Mr. Skopminski said that there were 4 issues that were not answered in the first memo, that didn't necessarily mean that they were significant. It means that they hadn't been answered. But if you look at his second memo, those were the very issues that were open, which were addressed in the memo that Mr. Cleary did, dated December 31st.
And the one that was received January 2nd.
There was a memo dated December 31st that was provided by the village's consultant. Now, we've heard suggestions that the evidence submitted has been done by the applicant and it should be reviewed by an independent and partial consultant. Well, that's what you have here. That's what Pat Cleary is. That's what his function is. He has submitted some detailed information which I believe addresses these concerns. The question of the Suffolk County Water Authority and the Suffolk County Health Department, they are separate agencies that have their own duty to review various things, and obviously if we don't get their approval, the project doesn't go forward or would need to be modified. But you have a letter in no uncertain terms from the Water Authority that the concerns of the Water Authority have been addressed by the design of the sewage treatment plant, and that was dated only a couple of weeks ago. You should look at the test hole that is shown on the map which was submitted. It shows a test hole that was done to a depth of 27 feet and no groundwater was encountered. So I think, and plus the fact, as you may also recall, that when we submitted drainage information for this proposed project, we proposed drainage that would cover an 8-inch rainfall where only a 2-inch rainfall is required. So I think, quite frankly, that we have taken more than a hard look, as I said before. We have examined all of the issues that the speakers tonight have mentioned. Those pieces of information that we have submitted have been reviewed by your own consultant, who has reached his own conclusions and given his own opinions on them. And I think it would just be cruel to require us to do anything further. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, may I? respond to Mr. Flanagan. Vincent Skavinsky, 76 Foxhall Lane. I may have been negligent, but I do not see the December 21st memo from Cleary Consulting where the 4 environmental impacts have been discussed. Where let's name them. They're not named in Mr. Flanagan's letter. I just wonder why they're not named. Number one, so let's name them, and let's just very briefly point out where they've been addressed and eliminated. That's all I have.
Do you know what they are?
No, I don't. He doesn't. You add subtract in the map in his letter, and you come up with 4, but he doesn't name them. I don't know where they are. They're not in the letter. Here's a letter of December 23rd. I don't see them.
To read that in conjunction with his memo, if you look at the various items.
Well, would you point it out to the board kindly?
Sure.
And point it out to me?
There was discussion of the health department. That was the first one. There was a question of the Suffolk County Water Authority. That was the second one. The third one had to do, I believe, with the traffic. That was also discussed because we submitted a supplemental memorandum. And I think the fourth one was part of the discussion of the sewage disposal and the water supply. Those were the issues. I think I indicated when I discussed in my memo that 2 of them overlapped, but they were all addressed. Those were the ones that we were still waiting for information from, and you now have it.
If I may just make one point, it doesn't, apparently they're not addressed in writing because we can't find them.
What one has to do is to review Mr. Cleary's memo and the responses I have and subtract them and then look at Mr. Cleary's memo of December 31st and they are addressed.
Is there any further input?
I don't wish, excuse me, I don't wish to engage in a debate with Mr. Flanagan. However, I just think it's in everyone's best interest to get it in front of us so we can all see the 4 concerns, the responses, how they've been mitigated. Yeah, that's what my request is. If it takes a full environmental impact statement to do it, let's do it. But let's, there seems to be 4. They don't seem to be adequately addressed. Mr. Flanagan is kind of stumbling around looking for them. I'm stumbling around. Let's get them out on the table.
I think Mr. Flanagan did. Those were the ones. I was very concerned that the meeting with the Suffolk County Water Department had never taken place. That actually did take place. So did the meeting with the Health Department. That did take place. There was a question about where the leaching fields were going to be located. They are now located outside of the 5-year capture area. That has been clarified. And the traffic issue with regard to segmentation, I think Mr. Cleary addresses in his most recent memo. It doesn't solve the traffic issue. It just points out that traffic's getting worse. What are you going to do about it? I mean, and that's really, something that you just have to weigh in determining the effect of this application. So I feel comfortable that the environmental issues have been addressed, that they've been solved. It's a sticky issue, Everybody's got points and opinions, and it's not black and white as to what's going on here. I certainly appreciate all of the input that the neighbors and that the applicant have given to this board in attempting to resolve this issue. It's now getting to the point, and I appreciate all of your input, but we're basically going over the same territory. The full environmental survey is not going to resolve whether or not the sewage treatment plant will fail or not. It's a known technology. It's being used around the country. I don't know what the environmental impact survey will do, except to say, as Mr. Cleary has said in his analysis, this is a proven technology. Have some plants failed? Evidently, all mechanical things fail at some point. There are concerns, but the environmental impact survey is not going to stop this project. It's going to maybe delay it. It's going to maybe add some questions. It's going to add some cost to the applicant for sure, but it's not like it all of a sudden stops everything and all the neighbors can go, yay, you know, we don't have to worry about that development happening here. I'm not saying that you're going to, but
I object to that statement.
No, I'm-
That's not the reason why we're here.
I
at
get it.
dinner
You
time.
want to resolve the issue.
Stevenson.
I get it. I'm not
Clearly-
saying that,
Well, I understand what you're saying. Clearly, and you can tell based on some of the commentary.
Could you go up to the microphone, please?
Absolutely. There's some confusion by the residents here because some of them do not have the up-to-date documentation. The latest of which was delivered today, which I don't have, and I've been trying to keep up to date. The latest one I have was delivered to the building department January 2nd. So there's some confusion. Perhaps do you think we need to have a little bit more time so that residents who are concerned can get these late-breaking documents that are being delivered over the holidays? There are some people that are away that would like to get them. I'm here, I've been here, and I still haven't gotten the last one that Mr. Flanagan made reference to. So we're at a loss. Understandably, an environmental impact study is not going to improve the technology of a sewage treatment plant, but it will answer a lot of the questions that people still have and make it the best possible project. No one's trying to delay. No, this is not a stall tactic. I know, but I take umbrage at that because we work very hard to try and find the answers.
we have listened,
and
I held
as
this
well
meeting
as-
open for
as you
months
do.
after months to allow everybody to make their
Of course,
point.
then that is part of due process, I would imagine, especially for something that is as important as this. So, do you think that, given the commentary from people here today, that there's some confusion because these documents have been delivered quite late in the process, even one being delivered today? Do you think that it has to be kept open for another period so that other residents can come and review these recent documents and give commentary, perhaps final?
I saw Mr. Cleary's memorandum December 31st. I don't know when it was available to the public. It's now January 5th. I mean, the last meeting took place in early December. It takes a while for him to have his meetings, which he did have. So I don't think there's any effort on the part of the Mr. Cleary or anybody else to delay providing the information.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this is stamped received by Southampton Village, January 2nd. This is the last document that I was able to get.
Well, I mean, you understand, December 31st is the day before New Year's. January 1st is New Year's, so January 2nd would be the first day it could be received.
Only relevant,
Excuse me, could you please stay at the mic if you're gonna keep talking? Thanks.
Sorry. Only relevant to those who would like to get, who don't work with the village or the building department, the planning department, who would like to have access to them, but have not been able to due to the lateness of their delivery and the fact that things were closed over the holidays. It's fair. It's a fair point.
I mean, there's conflicting evidence here. For instance, the point that, I'm not sure, Vince, if you raised it, or 10 houses versus 16. Mr. Cleary's survey shows that 16 with the sewage treatment plant generates actually less than 10, which you wouldn't have to go to the health department, you wouldn't have to go to the water department if the applicant decided
The only
10.
reason I'm addressing that is because if you look at the whole site itself, if you address the fertilizers that'll be used for 18 houses, if you address the phosphates, if you address all of that, and phosphates are never addressed in the water system. They say it's not really necessary, but phosphate is the thing that affects drinking water, not nitrate. So if you address all those, and pesticides also that are used on lawns. So if you addressed all of those and it's only 10 houses, and then you look, I'm not an expert, but it's worth having a look at, because
I think if you have 16 houses on the same lot as instead of 10, the 10 houses would have bigger lawns. And
But
you'd have more pesticides. and
Not
you'd have more-
not necessarily, because but you could do. If you put all of those houses that all be out of, they could go along, there are already 5 driveways that as I said, along Moses Lane. If you did two more, what's the difference? And that means they're totally out of the leaching field, or, away. And it doesn't matter with the
talking about
leaching field.
pesticides.
No. But pesticides come into this also when you're talking about doing lawns.
I just think if you have 16 houses that are going to cover a lot more
I
of the
can't
area,
argue with
and
you.
10
I can't
and 10,
argue
you
with.
could have
I
less
can't argue with that. The only one that
fertilizer
could do
and
that
less
is
phosphates.
the only one that could do that is an expert. And also, sewage treatment plant on it themselves are a question that can be addressed under SECRA. So that's. I can't argue it. I think that at this stage would like to see the other letters, would like to give anyone else that really hasn't had a chance to look at this, as Donna said, and that's the only thing. Everything was submitted so late. And we are the most active ones on this issue, but everyone on Corrigan Street is interested in it. People outside of Corrigan are interested, mainly traffic issue, and also the burden of cost on the taxpayers, if they're just everything that can be involved. So I can't say it anymore. I just think that it's the only development that has been proposed in a long time. I remember the courts that you were talking about, Mr. Hammer. They were located over on McGee Street. Am I right? McGee or
It's hard.
North Captain's Neck, because the village owns that whole parcel.
What is it that you? What is
And the
it that
tennis
you
courts
want?
were
You
in
want smaller
Roscoe.
lots or larger lots? You want smaller houses?
What we really want is just
tell me what
just
you-
an
what is it that
environmental
you want?
input study.
Or do you want no houses?
No, definitely houses. No, we definitely want houses.
Well, what do
It
you
will cut
want?
down on a lot of questions of what's going to be there. We've got 5 driveways there on Moses Lane, which 2 stop signs we'll
I'll
have,
have to
so
listen
that
to
might
this.
help. So no, we want houses, but we really want a study on this.
Okay. Can I come up one more time? Mr. Hammer, to answer your question, we'd just like an environmental impact study. And we'd also like to, we request that, and we'd also like to have enough time for the other interested neighbors and residents who can't come at 4:30 and who haven't had a chance to review the recently submitted documents, to be able to review them and have a chance to come here, perhaps one final time, to give their commentary. That's what we'd like. Is that
We did
clear?
delay
Is that
the
clear?
start of this discussion to 5:30.
And I appreciate that, and I appreciate that.
And I just don't know what new is going to be added to the discussion.
I couldn't tell you what would be on their minds. I could only tell you that it would be fair to give them a chance to read the recently submitted documentation, because it is important and it does present new findings as well as answers to some of the questions they might have had. It may be that they say, oh, that's great. I can't tell you that. But you have to agree with me that these were submitted very late. It was a scramble. I doubt that it was an easy time for anybody to read them in due time. And Mr. Flanagan made reference to documents that were submitted just today, or just recently, which subsequent to the one that I have that's dated January 2nd or 3rd. It's very recent.
Well, my last comment would be that the environmental study may not provide you with exactly what you're looking for.
But it may.
In other words, they're probably not going to say you have to change the driveways around. They're probably not going to say you got to change the sewage treatment plant to a different style. They're either going to say it's okay or it's not.
Okay, but that
They're
would
not
be.
going to suggest a different plan. They're
No.
going to say this is okay or it's
But,
not okay.
Mr. Stevenson, but you understand, we're not looking for a different plan necessarily. We're just looking to have assurances that this is the best plan with the least possible environmental impacts. And if we're talking about experts, and we're talking about experts in the field, then someone who conducts environmental impact study, I would think, is probably a higher authority than what you or I could even think to come up with. Mr. Flanagan makes reference in his letter that there's been no expert testimony. Well, an environmental impact study provides expert testimony.
I don't know what this guy again.
If I may, Vincent Skrbinski again. Since there seems to be it's an open question whether the environmental impact statement, what the full environmental impact statement will do. Why not err on the, if you're going to err, and I hope you don't, but why not err on the side of caution? Let's have a full environmental impact statement. It answers everybody's questions, satisfy everybody. Nobody has said definitively that everything's fine. They said, it's been mitigated, but let's do the film. What you can avail yourselves of that. It's within the code. Why not do it? And everybody is happy.
Mr. Cleary is an expert in this issue. He has consulted people. It's not as though it's a bunch of laymen up here just trying to decide this. We have had considerable input on this issue. In any case, I respect the due process of time, and if you feel like you've not had enough time to consult this, I do agree that 2 days is not enough. Board members, do you feel we should adjourn this to allow the public an additional opportunity to review the information, or not?
What are we going to do now?
Yes, sir.
Chairman Stevenson, Edward Corrigan, 245 Moses Lane, on behalf of my parents, Helen and Edward Corrigan.
What's this?
Have the letters from Mr. Cleary been read this evening that were submitted in the month of December? I don't remember, there was one in the middle of the month around December 20th, and a second one on December 31st. Can council read those letters since Mr. Cleary is not here to the open public? Because it sounds like there is some confusion around those letters, and I think his letters do a great job of answering a lot of the questions that are here tonight. Is there any chance council could read those memorandums tonight?
The attorney doesn't read the letter.
Is there anyone on the board that could read the letter to public?
I don't.
I made an attempt to summarize his most recent memorandum.
I apologize, I was a few minutes late.
I didn't read it verbatim as it's 8 pages long, but I tried to summarize the 4 key points regarding the viability of the sewage treatment plant, comparison of the sewage generated from the sewage treatment plant to 10 single-family homes, average house size and lot size surrounding the Beach Plum site, and segmentation issues regarding traffic. Those are the 4 points. Oh, and Long Island Railroad right-of-way. So he addresses those 5 points in his memorandum, and I tried to summarize them.
Great, thank you. Then on behalf of my parents, Helen and Edward Corrigan, I'd like to submit a letter and read it to the record tonight. To Chairman Stevenson and members of the Planning Board, thank you for your time discussing Beach Plum Meadows. The sketch plan has really evolved from where it started to where it is now. The process has worked, and I ask you now to declare a negative declaration for this project pursuant to SEQR. Planning Board Counsel Albert Robinson, at your November 2014 public meeting, asked the community members who opposed this project to return for the December 2014 public meeting with real, tangible information to back up their objections. The only new information that was raised in the December 2014 public meeting was the Long Island Railroad, which has been and will be informed of this project like any other neighbor. Also, as noted in the Cleary 12/31/14 memo, Long Island Railroad is not a permitting agency for this project. A few points I'd like to bring up. There are, as of 2013, plus or minus 3,100 residents in the village of Southampton. There are only 4 people, plus or minus, standing up and opposing this project. This project should not be delayed or held up with only 4 naysayers. out of 3,100. There are 6 neighbors that share the property line with this property. I have spoken with 5 of them. These 5 neighbors have told me they are not against the project. They would not come forward and support the project in public, as they told me they were scared to go against the people who are opposing it. As was demonstrated at the December 2014 public meeting, one is a real bully. I would question whether one neighbor opposing this project is even a registered voter in Southampton Village. Last I knew, they rent their house for the summer season for plus or minus $65,000. I know for certain 2 other neighbors opposing this project are part-time residents of the Village of Southampton. Do not care enough for this community to live here full-time? Maybe. The 4th person opposing this project opposes all development, and if you follow the Southampton press, this person is almost always in the letter to editor section opposing something and complaining about somebody. How credible can this be? Everything and everyone else wrong? How can Francis Genovese support a plus or minus 85 residential units on 12 acres, plus or minus 7.5 units per acre of pre-existing non-conforming land, and yet she can oppose 16 residential units on 11 acres, plus or minus 1.45 units per acre of pre-existing non-conforming piece of land in the same neighborhood? How credible is that? Valerie Hart, in plus or minus 2007, was the listing agent to sell this property and would have not had any problem supporting its development as long as she was receiving her commission on the sale. However, now that she is no longer involved in the sale of this property and is not receiving compensation from its development, she is standing here every month opposing it. Funny, I think. Another note from my parents: were very generous to Miss Hart and her mother and aunt when they sold them a building lot greatly below market value at the time, so they may all live together in Southampton and be down the road from her sister. My father, who was born in January 1930, turns 85 on January 17, 2015. Born in Southampton, grew up living at 245 Moses Lane, rode his horse all around Southampton when Moses Lane was the backwoods country in Southampton Village, or should I say the countryside full of farms. At that time, the only other house was his uncle next door. All the rest was farmland. If he had his way, or could afford it, he would take his bulldozer and level all the houses that has been built in his lifetime and convert the land back to farm country. However, he cannot, and that is not considered progress by the people that have built all of those homes or now live in them. It broke his heart when, in 2006, the town of Southampton CPF fund would not even make an offer to purchase the land to preserve it. He has volunteered in Southampton Fire Department for the past 65 years, as his father before did. His 2 sons, Maurice, served for 30 years, as well as his second son, Edward, who has served for 25 years, plus or minus 120 years of service to the Southampton community that he loves and goes out of his way to help whenever possible. I apologize, I'm getting choked up. Should also be noted that my parents, in 2009, turned down an offer from the same developer of Bishop's Pond, as they did not agree with his concept for the property, as he was wanting to develop a condominium project similar to Bishop's Pond with 7.5 units per acre on this parcel. They gave up their financial game at that time for a better type of developer to come along. That waiting took 5 years, 6 years now through the permitting process. Now this project has progressed and needs to be approved. The people that oppose it should move their attention and do something positive. Maybe something like the residents in Fox Hollow subdivision, plus or minus 2.25 units per the acre, could start their own homeowners association and build their own sewer treatment plant. What a great thing that could do for the water quality of our village. Maybe Valerie Hart and Francis Genovese could do the same thing along Corrigan Street and Bishop's Lane. Unfortunately, in my opinion, these types of people would rather spend their time complaining about others and how they have been wronged by the people around them, instead of spending their time looking for positive ways to help a community. So again, I ask the Planning Board to declare a negative declaration for SEQR and approve this sketch plan as is today, so we may continue to move forward. Thank you for your time and all you do for this community, the Corrigans.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would reiterate my request that the public hearing be closed and move forward. I think that it's gone on long enough. I don't think there'll be anything new. You have an expert who has addressed your concerns and the questions of the community, and I think it is time to shut the door on this.
Mr. Gordon, thanks for your reading the letter. I'd just like to say it's a difficult task of this board to balance the rights of your parents with the rights of the neighbors and other members of the community. We're trying to do as good a job as we can at that. I hope you'll understand that. Thank you.
I don't think this is the time to address personal issues, so I'm not going to. But I do think after the letter, this is definitely the time to extend the public meeting so anyone who would like to come in at the next public meeting to come in and voice their opinion. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Maurice Corrigan, reside at 9 Dodge Street, Southampton. I think these shows that you've been getting have been a disappointment, and like Gil Flanagan says, it's time to shut the door and vote on this thing, and let's keep going here. I mean, I wasn't prepared to speak, but this has got to stop, because it's costing us a lot of money, the developer a lot of money. So enough of this stuff is enough. Thank you.
Jacqueline Skrabinski at 76 Fox Hollow Lane. I just would like to respond to Mr. Corrigan's comments. I speak for the whole community. It's not just 4 people. It's Fox Hollow, it's Harvest, it's all the people along Moses. So it's really a miscast of the representation of our neighborhood. I think there are a lot of good people, and they just have, the concerns of our health and the future of the village at heart. So I'd like to go on record about that. Thank you.
All right.
I think that we've seen enough, and I think that they've answered as many questions as they can answer, and I think this is, we're doing a sketch plan approval at this point. We're not doing a final approval. We're doing sketch plan approval to allow them to keep heading in the right direction, although I see that the health department's on board. My concern a few months ago was the Water Authority, and there's a letter from the Water Authority dated a few weeks ago that says that the response that shows the proposed relocation of the sanitary leaching pools will result in an effluent discharge outside of the 5-year capture zone. This adequately addresses our concerns. I think we're working in the right direction, and I just don't think a full AF is going to bring anything else for us to look at.
So you would move to close the public hearing?
I would move to close the
Mr.
public
Hamer,
hearing.
what would your
His answer, I feel that we have asked a lot of questions and that we have a lot of answers. I don't think we should use any other declaration concerning the environment, because it's not really the purpose is to use it as a sword, but as a device to have a clear understanding of the condition of the property and how and what the environment does or doesn't do. And I'm satisfied that we've done that and we've done our homework.
Mrs. Gilmartin.
I think that we've asked them countless questions. They've come back and given us answers and even changed those and come back again when we've asked for more. I can't think of any more things we can ask them. I don't remember anything else coming under this kind of scrutiny, at least not while I've been on the board. I think that we're done.
Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
I second it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And I'll make a motion to prepare a negative declaration.
And I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I would vote against that, actually, but the issue carries 3-1.
So, not allowed to speak anymore.
the public hearing has been closed.
You still have to decide, or you've decided on the declaration?
We just had a vote on that, and it was voted 3-1 in favor of a negative declaration.
Stop that.
Mr. Chairman, would there be any movement on the sketch plan itself?
Pardon me, Gil?
Would there be any movement on the sketch plan itself?
I'm sorry. Could you-
Would there be any movement on the sketch plan itself? Because that's really what we're...
Movement in terms of
A
approving the
resolution,
sketch
right.
plan?
Yeah, since that's really what the stage we're at.
Here.
Mr. Stevenson?
Well, we had the separate determination of significance. We've done that.
So we can adjourn
Mr. Stevens?
for all purposes too.
Yes.
There are still inconsistencies on the sketch plan. The actual sketch plan does not concur with information on the legends. So I'd like you to be aware of that. Should be changed. Should be changed to be consistent.
We need to review the sketch plan and make sure that test holes, I mean, Kathy, oh, you're not, Patrick's not here, so I can't get that information. I can't do anything with on the sketch plan until I get input from Patrick Cleary.
Okay, and I just want to reiterate the three things that are wrong with the sketch plan. At one of the meetings, because we brought it up, you changed the pool and the deck to a patio because it did not fit into the building envelope. That is what is next to each house, is a patio. But on the representation of the house is...
My understanding is that once the sketch plan goes to an actual site plan, that is when all the setbacks and everything regarding
But
each
this
property.
sketch plan is not going in accordance, it doesn't, the one part of it, the lot coverage does not correspond to what, it says that the houses have a pool and a deck with them. And the legend also says the same thing, where they should all correspond. You're looking at a sketch plan that is not, and also, you have, if you're talking about park space, you still have to fit that park space into, unless there's some reason not to, into the sketch plan, because we have the dimensions, or the what is it, from the building department on how large an actual park space should be, and it's not on the sketch plan, so neither one of them
There's not a
correspond.
specific requirement in terms of
That
square
is.
footage.
Yeah,
There's a suggestion, and the board may modify that as the board sees fit, and the board
Okay.
may also request a financial contribution in lieu of parkland.
Okay,
But
so
all
that
that
will-
remains to be decided.
okay, good.
And as far as the lot coverage, I can't tell you, I have to get further
You have to
information
see a
from our
sketch
consultant.
plan. So I'm surprised there isn't a sketch plan in the file.
Moving on?
Moving on.
We have to make a motion to adjourn for all purposes.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have the rest of the program to do.
Moving into the subdivision review, Bishop's Grant, 333 North Main Street.
This guy? The guy who's legal? Yeah, Wayne Road. Have we seen this before, Bishop's Grant?
No.
Oh, my
This is
goodness.
new.
Do we have anything?
Well,
I don't believe any of the, well, Brian, you may have been on the board at the time. But everybody else is new.
For this
You might-
333?
You might want to, for.
Introduce
Grant.
Is this Flanagan?
No, Wayne Road.
so can you bring us up to speed on this? Kathy? or-
Good evening, Wayne Bruin, O'Shea, Marcinsick and Bruin. I'm here on behalf of BBSV North Main LLC, who's contract vendee from the Wiltshire Family Trust. This is property on the southwest corner of North Main Street and County Road 39. As your environmental consultant, Kathy, has indicated, this is a map that was previously before the planning board, and I just submitted to you a copy of a resolution this board adopted in February 2008, granting final conditional approval to a 4-lot subdivision. The property's a little over 4.4 acres. It's in the R12.5 zone. We're proposing only 4 lots, all exceeding 1 acre in size. Access is via a common driveway. If you look at the map, we have,
Wayne, did you submit maps?
I believe you have maps. Okay. There's maps and road and drainage plans, all which were previously reviewed and approved by this board.
On North Main Street.
Oh, this is it, okay.
That's it.
It's hiding on me.
It's okay. If you need, I can point it out here.
This is granted.
Again, part of the map.
Pat, you got
Pam.
Pam.
I'm sorry.
North Main Street on the right-hand side or the east part of the map. We have frontage on County Road 39 in North Main. We also have a flag strip from development way back. And what we're proposing is 4 lots. Back in 2007 and 2008, there was substantial review, several public hearings on this, and the debate was whether or not to have a public street versus a private road or common driveway. And the village highway department and the village planning board, among others, fire department at the time, did not want another short cul-de-sac to maintain. So the design element here was to put a common driveway. So we proposed a 50-foot flag for what is Lot 4, which would be developed as a common driveway shared by all 4 lots. We would put and maintain a scenic buffer along North Main Street and County Road 39, no access. You can see Lot 1 was designed, even though with the frontage on both streets, as a flag which would have access via easement over the common driveway, similar to Lot 2, which has frontage on North Main Street. Lot 3 would have a flag for legal access on County Road 39, but its physical access, again, would be via the common driveway, and the same with Lot 4. The only difference in this map, other than it being updated by the surveyor, is this particular map here shows some building envelopes. We're trying to develop those, but when you go back to the resolution of final conditional approval, this received a negative declaration. The Planning Commission reviewed it. There were some map notes which have to be done. One of the items in condition 1E was that particular map that the board approved did not show building envelopes. Our client put these on here for the board to review to see the potential. We want the consultant and the village attorney and the building department to review to make sure, because you do have the choice on where to put front and rear yards on flag lots. And given that we're eliminating access to County Road 39 in North Main, we're trying to establish appropriate building envelopes. The other thing that was occurring back in 2007 and 2008, that was at the infancy of the SWIP program. And at that time, there was a requirement, if you look at condition 3J, that this SWIP be incorporated into a covenant. And I think it's now the program that we submit a SWIP plan as part of the final engineering review. I would just suggest on a reapproval, we're looking to have this reapproved with the same conditions, but we might want to just separate that out and have that as a separate condition we would submit for a final review. The only other thing, at the time, the planning board did obtain an appraisal to set the park fee. I think you need to update that and order a new one. Otherwise, the map is entirely the same. We've upzoned it. It did receive health department approval. That has since expired as well. So we are in the process of having that updated, and we don't anticipate any problems with the health department. Again, it meets all the density requirements. There's public water. We far exceed the village zoning requirements. This is also something common driveway easements were reviewed with your council back in 2008, as well as all the covenants and restrictions that were set forth in the conditions here as well. Our clients are anxious to move ahead as contract vendees and obtain the reapproval so that they can complete the purchase and implement the map finally.
No legal issues?
I haven't reviewed it, but other than conditions that were, not fulfilled under the initial application, as Wayne says, it looks like everything remains the same. It was very thoroughly reviewed at the time. Kathy and I have spent a lot of time on it. And it's a good idea that the developer is suggesting what the building envelopes would be, and maybe this board would take it under advisement as to confirm or lock in those decisions on what would be the front yards. But other than that, it's pretty much...
So no requirement for public hearing or reopen or any of that
I think
stuff?
probably should have a public hearing, but I don't really see any issues.
What about referrals to other agencies?
I mean, it's, and seeker.
We probably don't have to do that.
You did a negative declaration.
negative.
It's referenced right in the resolution. We had EAFs and
And I don't
everything.
believe any conditions have changed, but we would look at that just to make sure.
I would think that when this board adopted a resolution, you would make findings, in fact, that time has passed, but nothing has changed as far as the conditions, and reaffirm the negative declaration. Certainly have your consultant review that.
Do you know if the edge of pavement changed here when they did the roadway modifications?
I don't believe so. I don't believe the surveyor changed anything on the maps other than to put the building envelopes on. It took them a month to do that.
Lucky.
Could the public hearing be scheduled for the next meeting?
Yeah, schedule a public hearing for the next meeting.
That would be fine.
Make a motion at the request of the applicant to schedule a public hearing for the next meeting, which is
February 2nd.
for February 2nd.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. In the meantime, I'll reach out to your consultant and your attorney, I guess.
Okay. OIA Associates.
OIA Associates.
Letter in the file. Requesting adjournment to February 2nd. Can I have a motion at the request of the applicant to adjourn?
I will make a motion at the request of the applicant, or to approve the request of the applicant to adjourn the OIA Associates to the work session of February 2nd.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye. Rapidly moving along.
Request from the applicant of 550 and 554 Hill Street to adjourn to the regular meeting in February.
Motion to approve the request of the applicant to adjourn until February 2nd.
This is 550?
Right.
Okay. Make a motion to approve the request of the applicant to adjourn 550, 554 Hill Street to the February 2nd meeting.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
408 First Neck Lane, Harkonnen and Atreides. Waiting submission for final subdivision.
Hi, it's John Bennett. I think we're...
Could you please step to the microphone, sir?
Apologies, I'm sorry.
Warren's here.
My apologies.
There you go.
Sorry,
Stay
Warren.
there. Speak into the microphone.
No slouching.
And no slouching.
in some Munich planning board or something? I think we've had to retrofit the subdivision of the septic systems or the wastewater systems, so we're waiting for the health department to come inspect those, and once they're inspected, they'll hopefully then approve the health department's subdivision part of the application. So if you could kindly adjourn it for a month. I had hoped to have that done by now, but we didn't.
Make a motion at the request of to approve the request of the applicant to adjourn for all purposes the 408 First Neck Lane until the February 2nd meeting.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
South Lane Properties, 104 Gin Lane. Letter from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation regarding this property.
This application is for the decision at this point. I just wanted to make the board aware of the notice that we got from the DEC, and make sure that Gil gets a copy of this. We circulated it, it wasn't the lead agency, we need to do a lead agency coordination. They advised us of the fact that because this is in a tidal wetlands area, it needs a subdivision. So basically, I'll give you that so you have it for your records, but that would be a condition of a sketch plan approval.
Hey, we're aware of that. We do that anyway. Once we get through the sketch plan, we make the application. You think I might be able to get a decision at the
We're pending a written decision, right?
Did you do it, if you grant it pending a written decision, that'd even be better. That'd be fabulous.
The sketch plan?
Sketch plan.
Kathy had a memo. I don't know if there are any issues that Kathy has.
No, I think it was just a matter of determining if there are any special conditions that we needed to include.
So we can do a
I have no problem with the
voting on it,
subject to written decision.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the sketch plan of 104 Gin Lane, subject to a written decision.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Moving right along.
The Suffolk County National Bank, 249 North Sea Road. Did you have a chance to?
I did not,
put
Mr.
that
Chairman.
together?
Had we had another hour to move tonight, I might have done it, but I didn't get that done. As a matter of fact, I've got the file, so we'll have that for February, though.
Make a motion to approve the request of the applicant to adjourn the Suffolk County National Bank, 249 North Sea Road.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No further action on the Chabad either.
Pelosi, Kathy, I saw your sort of summary of all the.
Basically what we've done is we prepared a memo that is a summary of all of the input that we received from the various agencies. And Suffolk County Planning Commission says this is a local matter. It's the village, make a decision. The Suffolk County Department of Works just notes that you will need to have a highway work permit, as you know, and that they will require an impact fee. The planning division of the town of Southampton indicated they have no substantial planning issues, given the existing location of the building, and they support having a formalized parking lot. And the village fire marshal has no issues, basically, with the plan. So, noted that this was circulated as a referral, not under seeker. It was, considered as type 2 action because there is no expansion to the building. And that John Foster has determined that the relief granted by the ZBA previously continues to apply. He had provided a separate letter to that effect. And also reviewed Jeffrey Bragman's memo dated October 14th formally, and note that he was having difficulty, he had a concern about the detached trailer to remove the wastewater, as did we. And but in the meantime, the applicant has a new plan to use a 30-foot truck. And with the frequency, which we don't have at this point, and that's the only question that is outstanding at this time, what the frequency would be of that, the wastewater, whatever it is, treatment. And so the remainder is just what is left as far as considerations, conditions for consideration by the board, and what other permits would be required. But I think otherwise this is, we've pretty much
Beat this one.
exhausted our review of this.
Kathy, are you gonna send, did you send that in, or?
Yeah, I
Because
actually,
it's-
why don't we have one for the file? Can we just
Okay,
have
'cause
that
I-
stamped for the file, because I do look at things late in the day.
So,
So what I'm attaching here is a copy of the letter that was from the Suffolk County Department of Public Works that went directly to our office instead of to the village office. So that's, should also, probably should be stamped in separately.
Okay.
so your site plan approval conditions for consideration, have they been communicated to the applicant?
No.
No.
I mean, we've kind of discussed these things over time. They would need to let us know, get a cost estimate for the work that's going to occur on village right-of-way and for the landscaping, so Aldo could provide the estimates for the bonds. And then the about reports that would be submitted to the DEC once the tank is, once the laundromat is in operation, and they have to submit reports under their speedies permit, and Aldo has requested that those be submitted to the village as well, so that way it's very clear that protocol's being followed and that it's operating correctly.
So it would be your recommendation that these points be made conditions of approval should the application be approved?
Yeah, yeah. And exactly. And except with the exception of the bonds, which is something that would be part of the approval.
Did we ever get a hours of operation of the?
Not to my
It's
knowledge.
nothing in our code that discusses the hours of operation, so we had,
I was just wondering whether or not this thing was gonna be like a 24-hour.
We don't really have any power to regulate that.
We don't?
No.
Okay.
2 o'clock in the morning is a great time to be laundry. So that's all I have.
Well, it would seem to me then that you would need to communicate this to the applicant, see if they agree to those conditions.
I've provided a copy of the memo to the attorney, so,
Robert Conley Farrell, Fritz, 50 Station Road, Watermill, New York, 11976 for the applicant. Yeah, this is great. We were actually, didn't know if the referrals had come back, so we were going to ask for an adjournment anyway. So now that we have this, we'll talk to our clients about about all the conditions, and if we could have it put on for the next public hearing, I'd appreciate that.
Make a motion to approve the request of the applicant to adjourn the Pelosi Auto Roller to the February 2nd meeting.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What is the status with Mr. Bragman's office and the commentaries and the cross commentaries? Is that in the 2 offices complete?
I believe so. I don't believe we've heard
I think it was your office to reply to his memo.
Right. And I think we did that.
Okay. So that's, should not be an issue?
I don't believe so.
Nobody gives us grading.
Crease Properties, 16 Windmill Lane. Anybody know anything about that? I don't see anything in the file about it.
Again, Robert Conley Farrell, Fritz, 50 Station Road, Watermill, New York, 11976. We're going to ask the board for an adjournment to the February 2nd meeting.
Make a motion to approve the request of the applicant to adjourn the Crease Property, 16 Windmill Lane, to the February 2nd meeting.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, moving into the landscaping plan review for flagpole lots. 46 McGee Street.
Decision in the file on that, an affirmative vote on the motion would be to approve the landscape plan as submitted, as amended, excuse me.
This is
Motion to approve the decision.
okay. I'll make a motion to approve the decision.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 24 Pulaski Street. Survey and landscape plan is in the file.
We have reviewed the landscaping plan. This is a one where Steve and I went to the site and took a look at what was there and see if there was any way they could save some of the plantings that were there and didn't really feel that there was much wood saving in here. So what's here is about all that you can do. You know, it's basically a hedge around the property and, you know, save, you know, variety, putting into variety. But this is what the applicant chose to do. The only question that I have, and it's sort of a little bit, I don't know how to put this. The way remember when we were out there, the driveway for this lot right now, goes over the property line.
Right.
And I'm just not sure what's gonna happen with that, but
John, do you have a survey of this possibly?
all I can do is, I understood that comment before, all I can do is put the driveway back on the property.
yep, exactly.
That's all I can do.
But it's almost like what, you know, whoever lives here at this point is going to have to deal with that if this, you know, it's just gonna look kind of, here's an aerial.
Yeah, because now it's, here, take a look at this. John.
Yeah, I know, I saw the
Yeah,
aerial.
yeah.
First of all, I wasn't so sure that the aerial matched up
The
with the
aerial's
property
not
lines.
perfect.
Yeah,
It's
the
definitely
aerial,
not perfect.
which is somewhat deceiving.
Yeah.
And all I can
No,
do
they got
is
this site
deal
plan.
with the property lines.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I understand, but
Yeah, it's
there's really no remedy for it.
Right. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have to rip part of that existing driveway out. But
It's probably better to get it done the right way
Sure.
anyway.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So as soon as that happens, this person is gonna recognize, oh, that's
yeah,
my
you see,
property.
this is the existing
Pretty
driveway.
much, or not.
So it's going to move
Or
over
not.
You're gonna
this
get
way
this kind of strange
to be on the lot.
area.
So yeah.
So,
Which side does it air to?
It comes in like this.
West, I
It
guess,
comes in like this. There's a couple of feet here, and then the rest of it's over here.
you
So it's just going to.
So
Because
you
it used to be
can't
owned,
just
it
put
used to be
the,
owned, it used to be in common ownership. It was
Yeah.
the.
you
go-
can't put the trees where the driveway is, or else you're going further onto their property.
Okay, okay. No, but the trees are shown, the landscaping is shown within the boundaries of the property.
yeah. I think it's almost as if there's a way to just notify this person that that's their property.
Okay,
And I don't
well,
know if it's that, you know, that may be the only remedy, is that if this happens, you put this driveway in here, and then you have the lining of the trees along the flag portion, then there's this kind of no man's land here.
Well, I
And
mean,
if this person doesn't realize that that's their property, then it might stay there for years. So if there's maybe if it's just a simple letter that, you know, that's showing them the plan and making them aware of it. And that's
well, it's
just-
staked out.
Right.
It's staked out, although there are some trees on the other side. But I mean, I think it's their responsibility to have a legal driveway to their own home, and if it
No,
hasn't
they
been.
have their own driveway. The folks here.
Oh, so they're not using this one
No.
at all? Oh.
No, so it's
Then maybe
just
just
that they may not even know
Take the
that
whole
they
thing.
own this.
Take the whole thing out, and well, you can't because it's on their
So
property.
it'll
On their
look
property.
nicer if they,
Yeah.
you know, so.
no, but they're not in for site plan review.
Mhm, mhm.
No, we can't,
All
we
I
can't
can
make
do
them
is,
do
all I can
anything.
do is what I
Right.
can do on my property.
Right.
I'm not trying to be obstreperous or anything, I can't,
No.
there's really nothing else.
So that's the only thing I could think of. It's not great to have that out there, but. they
Is
don't
there any
know that
reason
it's
why
there.
your office couldn't write a letter to the neighbor and get an opinion?
An opinion?
Whether they would allow or a license to remove the driveway from their property? Is that what the issue is, Kathy?
Half a driveway.
I mean, I'm just saying, he's gonna put in a line of trees here, right?
Right,
So
along the
then-
property line.
So here's this new array of trees right here, and he's
Right.
gonna
Yeah,
put in
this
his
is
own
like old and
driveway,
scary
which is
back
great,
there.
right?
Right.
So
Now,
he's
now you got
here.
a slab of drive, now you got a
And-
driveway on the other property, you guys know.
And this is a hedge, effectively a hedge. So whoever owns this property, they just, you know, have a plan.
But,
Where does he- where does he get
there's
the
actually a row of bushes here
His own
because
driveway.
these guys have their own driveway.
So
It's
this
really
ends up staying
within.
here, and actually.
Well,
Well,
then I think-
probably what he'll do is come in and revegetate.
If he even knows, so that's.
He
what
doesn't
I'm
even
saying.
realize it's
He doesn't even
not his
know
Well, when he
property,
sees
I would
that
think,
line of
but-
hedges going up, I
Yeah.
think that's about as much.
No, because there's
notice as
isn't
you
there
can.
another,
Driveway?
isn't, Kathy, there's another line of hedges between that driveway and the other
On
house?
the other side?
Yeah.
I just remember
It's
that.
this area here, right? This is.
No, it's
Here.
that area.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the driveway,
But
yeah.
when he sees this line of hedges going up, I think that's about as much notice as you can imagine.
Kathy, can I just see that aerial one more time?
You know what I'm saying?
My only thought,
if anything,
Roy,
you'd be
is that
thankful.
the courtesy would be to inform him of what's going to happen, and if Mr.
Yeah, I
Bennett's
mean-
client would agree to remove the asphalt from that property as part of the approval of the board, and then level it, and let that owner leave it the way he wants to, or let him plant it, or do what he
Yeah, because
wants.
there is more plantings on the other side of the driveway.
Yeah, well, it's up to him.
Yeah.
It's up to him. Let him
So I
leave
don't
it,
even
but
know
the
if
best-
this
the best the applicant-
neighbor will know.
I
So,
don't know,
but-
can you require an approval on, can you?
It's not a
condition
requirement of
something?
approval, it's just finding out information whether or not he would consent to.
Oh,
It's an offer to remove it. If
But-
there's no reply, then there's no reply.
Well, I don't know if you can condition something on an off-site improvement.
We're just asking.
You sort of have a tough time doing work on somebody else's
I
property
understand.
as a
I
condition of
understand.
someone, as an approval.
All it is removing, the asphalt from the site and just scraping it flat.
I mean, from what I remember going there, when you pull in this driveway, there is more vegetation on the left side. Even if you put the bushes up, I don't even think they're gonna see the bushes, because there's another row of bushes.
Well, they're gonna put the bushes
And
in,
it-
it's just
yeah.
a question of whether or not extending the courtesy to remove the asphalt or not.
But even John, even just thinking from the perspective of the value of this property, that this is going to be remaining a little driveway, a little entrance where, whatever, people can hang out or whatever.
What does it
might
cost to
be-
rip up driveway, asphalt?
When you got the machinery, and I would think.
Yeah, when you're ripping this one up.
It's not that bad.
If you want to make the condition.
Just make
that
the
we
offer. No, we don't want to make
the
it a
offer.
condition. We want to just
Right.
have your office make an offer and
That's pretty
If you
clear.
can
see what he
explain it
says.
to
Clean the
them,
whole thing up, yeah.
maybe explain it to them,
Can't we
show
just
them
send him
this,
back and tell him
and
to
then
fix
try to
it?
give you a.
Why don't I just put it in there? I don't have.
Yeah, I
why don't
agree
just-
with you.
We'll make the offer to them. I'll
Just
send them
make
a
the
letter,
offer,
make
just
the
make the offer to remove the asphalt and scrape it
Is
flat.
that part of the application?
No, not really.
Kathy, I agree with you. You don't want a little 5-foot triangle of hedges on both sides.
Yeah.
To not have it there, because it's just asking for people to dump garbage
Yeah, it'll be
there.
like a 5-foot wide, encased on both sides with
Exactly.
hedges.
Place where kids
Gravel
can go
driveway.
smoke dope.
Yeah.
Right.
I was thinking.
Right. Yeah.
Sounds like a great skateboarding.
No, it's gravel.
Oh, it's gravel?
It's gravel.
Yeah.
Oh, this is all gravel?
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
just a
it'll
little
scoop right
scrape
up.
up the
Yeah.
gravel.
I don't remember if it was paved, was it?
No, I think it was
underneath? No,
gravel,
just
because there was
gravel.
stuff growing up through it and.
That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a quick letter to them saying, look, this is.
Well, I would prefer that as a condition to the approval.
All right,
Just
all right.
If that's okay, and then I'll just
Mm-hmm.
write a letter to them asking for permission to remove the portion of this
Driveway,
driveway that's on their property
and just level it.
and level it. Yeah, okay. I don't have, yeah, it's probably, as you say, Kathy, aesthetically, it's probably better for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Because they must have done something with this entrance here. It's a like
I mean,
a
it's
curb
okay.
cut
There's no
now.
real written decision on this one. These are what we.
But again, that's just, it's an offer. If they say no,
Right.
Exactly. All right.
So do we need a written decision on this, or you can make a motion to approve pending a written decision?
We need a written decision.
Okay. So we can make a motion to close the
Close
the
the
hearing.
application, subject to
Close the
decision
application.
only.
Make a motion at the request of the applicant to close the application pending a written decision by council.
okay, thank you. That's nice.
Do I have a second?
One second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Where are we now?
Okay, that was Pulaski Street, so we got Skyfall Bornhard.
68 Barnhart.
Yep.
Has the
This
last
one?
one ended yet?
No. This is Bishop's Hat.
What is that back?
Do you have a time on this one?
Kathy.
I have a notice from Lara Arbat.
Yes, there was. So there's no resubmission here? No, we only have 437. Okay, so we're awaiting a revised plan for that one.
Make a motion to approve the request of the applicant to adjourn the Skyfall Barnhard, 68 Barnhard Street to the February 2nd meeting.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And Lucy Bushman, 437 Hill Street.
This one, we did receive a revised plan within the time the Barra did her memo. Just for the record, Antoinette, could you make a correction on it is 437 Hill Street, not 473, as it has on the agenda? In the minutes.
We did have one previous meeting.
I don't know if the minutes do. I don't know.
We had one after this meeting. You should have it in your folder.
So
You
basically,
should
it's
have
the
one in
same
folder
thing.
from
It's
like 2
being,
meetings ago.
it's
Yeah.
a hedge that's going to surround the site, and although Lara had mentioned some mature vegetation, she had not. I wanted her to come out. She didn't have time to come out, but I didn't want to delay, so she put together the memo based on being mapped through and aerials, and since that time, the property has been cleared. So this, she says, is fine, considering that there isn't any existing vegetation on the property. So I believe that was it, right? You didn't have any. No, it was another one that had invasive species in it.
Right.
Well, this one has
What?
this one has a ton of bamboo.
This one already has.
Yeah, but
some
we've
bamboo.
addressed it in our plan to
Okay.
remove it and put a bamboo barrier shield. It's actually coming from the neighbors.
Oh, gosh, okay, that's great. Yeah, no, this one is ready to go. I
Brian
would-
Mahoney, our landscape architect.
Okay,
Is that okay then?
yeah, so this one is recommended for approval in that case.
All right, so decision on February 2nd?
Oh, sure.
So make a motion to adjourn to February 2nd?
Close the hearing and bring the decision only.
Make a motion to approve the request of the applicant to close the application and adjourn to February 2nd for a written decision.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That concludes the items on the agenda.
Yeah.
We now have the opportunity to approve the minutes from the November 3rd, November 24th, and December 3rd, 2014 meetings. Has anybody had a chance to review those? Anybody wish to make any changes, corrections, additions?
Nope.
I have a motion to approve these minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of November 3rd, November 24th, and December 3rd, 2014 minutes.
Second it. I wasn't at one of the
Oh,
meetings.
I need a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next meeting will be a work session, January 26th at 5 p.m. With that, if there's no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I will make
Second that.
make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.